Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are, and welcome to Tea with Lily. I'm your host, Lily Naadu Mensah, and I'm a brand strategist by day and an events host by night. And looking at how things have been going, we know that communication is one of the most important things in life, whether in any part of our lives, whether it's talking to our family, talking to clients, talking to our suppliers. If we don't get clarity on what we're saying, the communication doesn't go anywhere, does it? So thank you everyone for joining Tea with Lily. And we have the fabulous Louise Chandler on the magic sofa. How are you, Louise?
Hi, Lily. Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing good, and it's lovely to see you. And we're not in the same room, obviously, but
Yeah.
virtually it's nice to connect and catch up. And I have my tea ready as well for Tea with Lily.
Oh yes. What have you got on your mug? It looks quite colourful.
Well, yeah, exactly. This was a gift actually from a friend, but I've got herbal tea and it's cherry. So it's like a fruity one, which I thought was quite nice and delicate for our uplifting chat that we're going to have.
Absolutely. That's good. A fruity tea. Now, what's in the news today before we kick off? For everybody that ran the London Marathon, that's 26 miles and about 41 kilometers. I can barely do 5K. So congratulations to all those who started. And today also is St. George's Day, the patron saint of England. And I know St. Patrick's Day, they have a public holiday, but in England, we don't have a public holiday. And I understand, Louise, that there is a petition of about 70,000 signatures. So I'm going to be signing up for that. How about you?
I think so. I think us Brits love a bank holiday, don't we? We have quite a few throughout the year. We've got 2 coming up in May. But what's one more? Let's squeeze in one more in the year. Why not?
Of course. Because last year we were talking about the coronation and all of that, but we didn't get a holiday, did we? No.
I thought we did get an extra bank holiday for the king, but you know, it seems like a long time ago now.
No. Oh, I just want another holiday.
An extra day off.
An extra day off. But you know, as entrepreneurs, we don't really have a day off, do we? We're always working. There's one extra thing that was in the news today, that electric vehicles have been oversupplied. The supply chain is just, they've overproduced them. And I do love my figures. It says in 2024, 25, and 26, the global industry will be making in excess of 20 million more electric vehicles. And then there'll be a price war. And I'm going, thank you, Jesus, because I know I can now afford to buy an EV because the prices will go down. So those are the things that have come up. And also from Marketing Week, Louise, and to all the guests, all the listeners here, Tesla is to lay off its entire marketing team.
Let me guess, is Elon Musk going to be running it himself?
Who knows? But that's what I'm literally in the last half an hour read about that. And I'm thinking, you need marketing. It's the communication, it's what runs through. You need marketing, you need sales, you need all of that. And you can't just let the team go. But I think that actually goes to show about the EV, the challenges of EV, and the fact that they have overproduced it and haven't done their maths very well. And they've got competition from China. So yeah, so that's what's in the news, which is a shame. I hope, people don't really, the marketing, well, I have an affinity for marketing, so I hope the marketing team get reinstated in some way. So guys, Tea with Lily, as you know, is an informal space where we have a relaxed atmosphere, and we guests from all walks of life join me on the magic sofa, and they come with tips and tricks for professionals and entrepreneurs interested in business and personal growth. Today's topic is communicating with clarity. I have to enunciate because I'm speaking to someone who does communication. And it's about the guide for leaders. And my guest, Louise, I call her Lou. So if I slip and start calling her Miss Lou,
Right.
you know that. So welcome again, and you're drinking fruit tea. And I understand your voice is so you're feeling a little bit croaky. So thank you.
That's okay. I've been hydrating myself all day, ready for this talk, just so that I don't go mute. So yeah, this big old mug is going to help me out.
Oh, okay, okay. So, guys, please let us know where you're watching or listening from, so that we can say hi, hi, hi. Welcome from Canada. Welcome from Ethiopia. Welcome from Colorado, and so on and so forth. But if you're in business and you need tips on communication, stay to the end because Miss Lou comes armed with a lovely present. Now I'm going to read her bio. Louise is an award-winning media and communication specialist with over 20 years experience working in the media, marketing, and PR industry with names like the BBC, Nationwide, and Superdrug, working to influence organizations, charities, and entrepreneurs and businesses with a dedicated passion to make a positive difference. Oh, I like that. For Louise, it's all about creating content telling and stories of success that share a positive message about achievements. Louise is keen to share her lived experiences as a Black woman and all that comes with it. Yes, that includes experiences of challenges, triumphs, and highlights to encourage open and honest conversations, all with a giggle and a good time. Oh, I love this. Pink is her favorite color, and she got her nails did. Show us, Louise.
Can you see me? That was my treat today. I thought I've got to have my nails done. I don't feel right if my nails aren't done.
Cooking is also her favorite way to unwind after a long day. She has hiked up the 3 highest peaks in the UK to conquer her fears of heights. Gulp. Oh my God. From working in call centers and with penguins, not at the same time, and arranging for a 104-year-old to be arrested for fun and for being a firefighter for a day. She's done it all and she's not finished yet. Please tell us about the 104-year-old, please. How did that happen? What happened?
So at the time, I was a PR manager for a care home group that had 14 different care homes across the UK. And one particular care home that was based in Bristol had, 20, 30 residents. And they worked with a local charity that was all about fulfilling the dreams of residents. So some residents would say they'd never been on a back of a horse before, or they always wanted to visit a particular tourist attraction. And this charity would make it happen because, the elderly people were in their mature years, and it was a way of I think helping them to fulfill a dream, but also reminding society that even when you're older, you still have wishes and dreams you want to fulfill. And there's one particular lady called Anne, who at the time was 104, had quite a sparkle in her eye. And when this charity said to her, "What's your unfulfilled dream and wish that you always wanted to experience?" she said very clearly and plainly, "I always wanted to be arrested." Now, I think at the time they were like, "What? Say that again." What? Arrested? And she basically said she had been law-abiding for her whole entire life, had never met the police, was always interested in what they did, so wanted to be arrested. So sure as sure, the charity spoke to the local police service and arranged for police to come to the care home and arrest her. Now, what I would say is there was no force, there was no brutality, there was no violence, and it was, but they played along with it. She wanted to wear the handcuffs. She wanted to be escorted out of the building by them. But they had fun with it, and she had lots of interactions and chat. But it went viral across the world. And as the PR manager for the care home group, I was there that day to manage it as a media event because the media got hold of it. They heard that this was going to be happening. It was great promotion for the care home group. It was great promotion for the charity and for the police service to have a lighter element to who they are. But yeah, I mean, at the time I had calls from news stations across Europe, from New York. Everyone wanted to speak to Anne. Everyone wanted to hear, you know, why she wanted to be arrested. So it was a light-hearted story that, certainly had far wide-ranging reach. How many 104-year-olds do you know that want to get arrested?
I'm not close to that, and I certainly don't want to be arrested, no matter how old I get, because I don't know, but I think at that age you just want, you know, your wishes fulfilled, as you say. Let me say hello to a couple of people from LinkedIn, and Agatha, thanks for joining us. We don't know where you're watching from, so let us know in the chat. We have Ikoa Asari from the UK. She said your nails are very lovely. And we've got Gary from Germany. And so greetings to you all, and thanks for joining us. Now we're going to get into the meat of it. To kick off, what is it, Louise? Let's just start. Go back a little bit. Why is communicating with clarity such an important topic for you?
I think I can answer the question really from a few different perspectives, from a personal one and also from the industry and what I do. But when you think about it, communicating with clarity is something that is so vital because you only really have one chance for a good first impression.
Yes.
And you want people to get the right impression, not only through how you conduct yourself, but also in terms of the words and how you communicate and what you say, because people will remember interactions and conversations. So if something isn't clear or is really confusing and long-winded, that's going to set up the wrong impression. I also, Lily, I go back to my very first job. I worked at River Island, which, for those of you who don't know, is a retailer. I used to sell shoes. My first job was a Saturday girl for £2.88 an hour, and I think that was some of my first lessons in communicating. Because at the time I had a manager, a boss, who used to say to me, you know, body language, don't stand there on the shop floor with your arms like this because it looks defensive. You know, how do you maintain eye contact? All these kinds of codes and tools that we have in our armor to communicate. Then you add in words, and then you're really saying, wow, you know, how do you have conversations with people to find out who they are and what they do, or how you can help them, how you can support them, how they can support you. So I think, I've been learning these lessons from in my family, from my very earliest working moments in retail, and also, in my profession and what I do. I think ultimately we all have a particular set of skills and knowledge and expertise, but we're so close to it and it's here right in front of us. Sometimes we're not always the best at explaining it because we know it so well. And this is where it's important to have that clarity to really make sure that you are giving that best impression, as I said.
That's important because eye contact, I find, is one of those is a delicate balance, isn't it? Because you can't overdo it, because it will look like you're staring people out. And so you have to and it's something that I find the younger generation have challenges with, because speaking to, I remember, my son is a lot older now he can, but literally speaking to humans was something that would terrify him. So for instance, he'll come to my office, maybe summer holidays, he'll come to my office, they would go out for lunch. He will sit in reception and refuse to come upstairs because that meant he had to speak to another human. And he didn't want to even open his mouth to speak, let alone communicate. The body language and everything was off. And I said, well, I'm not coming out unless you come up the elevator or the lift. And he did learn eventually, and now he does it. But it's those in their teens, I think, are the ones that have that challenge.
Yeah.
So we look at things like How do you introduce yourself, for instance? I mean, what are some of the things that we can do to introduce ourselves, Louise?
Do you know, it's funny, I actually posted some this particular topic on LinkedIn recently, because I think, say you're at a dinner party, you're at a networking event, wherever you are, and you meet someone for the first time, what's the thing that we always lead with? Firstly, our names, and secondly, our job titles. That's the standard, right?
Yeah.
However, I think by and large, our job titles don't really summarize what we truly do. It's great, it's a label, not an issue with it at all, but it doesn't really summarize all the skills and the transferable skills, the expertise that we bring to that role. So I was actually saying on LinkedIn recently, how do we introduce ourselves? And, you know, the bio that you read out about me is kind of one example where I talked about some of the, I suppose, wacky things that I've done in my career, because that's what starts conversations. And that's what really gives an overview and an appreciation of what I do. A job title is so short and succinct, it doesn't really get to the heart of it. So yeah, I think that's why when you introduce yourself, it's trying to think of the things that are memorable. And, you know, we're not trying to fabricate, we're not trying to sensationalize it, but equally, it's the things that you are really proud of that are important to you, that you think someone else should know. And I'm not convinced that a formal job title is the first thing that is always going to leave that good first impression.
But I think I've been told that you're more than your job title, and you shouldn't really lead with that. You should kind of open up with something else, and then say, even your name has to come before your company, because people will always buy people. And I was listening to a section of my book, just remind me some of the things I've said in it. Because I did an Audible version. I was in the car and I was fiddling with stuff, and it section I think 10 or section 8 came on. It was about networking. And one of the things that I remember saying in the book was that you're more than your job title. And also, if you have a name badge, as you're introducing yourself, you first before your company. And you first, what you do, and then your company. Because people will buy you first and then what you do before the company. And people don't realize that. They think, you know, the company. But if that's what if you're being paid to work for an employer, you have to go according to their rules. But if you have a choice to do the name tag yourself, then your what you do, and then your company. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I would certainly agree. I know for me, it's, and don't get me wrong, this isn't something that you can always nail the first time overnight. It evolves, doesn't it? As we evolve, we're not set in stone. As people, we learn and upskill ourselves, and our careers evolve over time, and so should how we introduce ourselves as well. So I don't think, I think that when you come up with a sentence, that won't be it for forevermore. I think for me, I always try and think of something that's quite short and snappy. So for example, one of the ways I introduce myself to people is I say, I'm your brand's best ally. And I actually got that phrase from a testimonial from a client. That's how they described me. And I thought, wow, okay, I like that. I'm going to use it. But then also it's the words we use that are active as well. So I talk a lot about how I inspire businesses to communicate with clarity. You know, that's it's like, oh, okay, I get it. That, you know, explains, it's a bit more active as well in a description.
And I think if we're talking about the C's or branding, clarity is one of them. It has to be concise, and all it has to be consistent. And we can do, I think I've got 10 in my back pocket somewhere. I can only remember 3. But yes, clarity is so important. And we're talking about describing your job, which would be sort of the next thing if somebody asks you. And it was so funny. It's like, when you go networking, oh, hello, what do you do? How do you respond to that?
I know, that is always one of the leading questions, isn't it? Normally people ask, People ask me, like, well, I've got a mouthful of croissant or something. I'm like, oh no, you're thinking, oh gosh, crumbs. I'm trying to chew and think and respond quickly. Yeah, I actually had a situation once where I was having a conversation with a colleague at a networking event, and out of the blue, someone just shoved a business card under my face. So it was like here. And I looked at the person in the hand in this card. They didn't say anything. They just shoved the card and while I'm stood there talking to someone already one-to-one. And I was like, okay. And it turned out he was a car mechanic. He ran a garage. Brilliant. But, he didn't ask me if I've got a car or a motorcycle. He didn't ask me anything. He just shoved. And I remember thinking, wow, firstly, that etiquette-wise, that's really rude. And secondly, it was so impersonal. Now, turns out I do drive. I have got a car. It often needs servicing or MOT. But his whole way of coming across really put me off. And also didn't make me want to recommend him either. So I think it's really interesting sometimes. And don't get me wrong, networking, it can be a nervous space. People don't always feel comfortable. But just shoving a bit of card under someone's face also isn't the way to, be memorable in the right way.
The etiquette, at least, is to ask someone first if they have a card.
Yeah.
Before, if you're so keen to give them your card, you must have had a conversation with them and ask them if they have the card. And if they don't, if they do, they give you this, and then you pass yours on. And maybe there has to be that unspoken word. It's etiquette, common etiquette, isn't it? And hello, Charles. Charles is watching from Facebook. Miss Lou, we're on Facebook as well, and we're on YouTube, by the way. So we've got some people watching or will watch on repeat on Facebook. So thank you, Charles, for joining us. I hope you're doing that. He's watching from London. So yes, the etiquette of the business card. Some people still haven't got it.
They haven't. And I think, we live in a world nowadays where everything that we do is so virtual. It's all, this conversation now is virtual. Don't get me wrong, I'm not knocking it. COVID, I think, has transformed how we work, how we communicate. But I think people forget the social. When we say social, it means social. It means actually, etiquette. It means, conduct with manners and with mindfulness, and to actually still interact like human beings. And I think sometimes if all we do is do virtual events, people forget. And that's why they do things like shoving cards under your nose and forgetting that a conversation is the first thing you should just have.
Yes, ask how people are. And well, do you know what? Maybe we should run a class, a live class in London or wherever you are, on the networking etiquette. Just that.
The do's and don'ts.
The do's and don'ts of networking. So you talk about how to tell your story as well. Some of the conversations that we've had. How can we do that to tell the story that's memorable?
I think really it's about looking at your own journey, and because everyone starts from somewhere. We all, whatever job or career background you come from, at one point you were brand new to it. You were learning, you were training, you were trying to find your feet. And I think when you are quite far into your career and running your business, for example, we can forget those early days. I started off in broadcasting, and I remember when I would go and work on pilot radio station projects that were probably broadcasting to a man and his dog, but it didn't matter. When there was a studio, I was there. That thirst and that passion and that hunger for my craft, what I wanted to do, that's part of my story and my journey, because I know what it's like when I talk to other people and they're starting out in their business and their career. So I think the first thing is, remembering that journey. And actually it's quite nice and sentimental to go back to it. Remembering the training that you did, or if you went to university, or the first jobs that you did, the jobs you hated, the ones you loved. Recently, I wrote an article on LinkedIn about the best boss I ever had. Who was quite
I saw that.
Yeah, he actually told me to leave because he said to me, I wanted to stay, or was a bit, not sure, should I? And after a couple of years, he said to me, no, we've got nothing else really for you here. It's best you go. And I loved that about him, because he was really intuitive about not just saying, I'll stay in the company for my benefit. He put my needs first. But that's all part of our story. So I think revisiting that journey is really important. And the people that you've met along the way as well. As I said, best boss I've ever had. Some of the people who you studied with, worked with in those early jobs, they're the people who I think will champion you. As if you've had really good working relationships with them, they're the people who will champion you and say, oh, I remember when you came to work with us, or when we were both sitting at exams, or when we were both, working till the late hours. So I think, and it's bringing the personality into the story as well. It's any humor that you have, that's part of your personality or a story. It's including those anecdotes and those moments that made you say, like, for example, one of my first radio gigs, I was working for the BBC, newly qualified, and as I got into the studio one day, I was sent down to Gatwick Airport to report from there, because there'd been a bomb threat. And on the way down to Gatwick, with the cameraman, I was told, right, call your next of kin. I was like, what for? And it's like, oh, because we're going into, quite a dangerous situation. I was like, so I had to phone my mum and say, right, I'm not in the studio today, Mum. I'm going to Gatwick because there's been a bomb threat. She's like, yeah, I've heard on the news. Why are you going? And I was like, I've got to go report. And the things that you learn about yourself in that, in those challenging times where it might be stressful and pressured, and how you apply those skills to other areas of your working career and life now. That, to me, that's part of telling your story. So it's looking at your journey and where you've come from, and remembering that with, not with rose tinted glasses. You can be honest, but just remembering that journey, I think, is really important. Secondly, it's, as I said, with the personalities and the people that you've met and how they've played a part in your journey as well. And then thirdly, it's all the anecdotes and the memories, and all the transferable skills that you've learned from those moments that you can bring into the now.
Oh, that's amazing. Because starting, but your backstory is so important. It makes you human, no matter how big and large that you have become. Everybody starts from somewhere. So I really get that. We have Pat. Hello, Pat. Thank you for joining us from Facebook. And we have Zainab joining us from LinkedIn. Zainab and Pat, where are you joining us from? Which location? Which part of the world, idyllic part of the world, are you joining us from? We'd love to know. Now, what about relationships? They're so important, aren't they?
They are. And I think what I found in my career is the relationships that I've made and work colleagues and things have been so powerful. And what I like about that are people who are not only your best allies, but also your best critics. And being open to that, because I've worked with some amazing people from my broadcasting days and now in the marketing communications industry, who sometimes we don't always see the vision of the project of what we want in the same way, but that's good, because it challenges you and it gets you to see things from a different perspective or in a different way. And that's what I love about it. But also, I've got some colleagues who, we are a meeting of minds. We get together, it's just sparking ideas, and we could do this, we could do that, and it's almost like you're
take over the world.
Yeah, exactly. But also, one relationship that I will always credit and hold very dear to me is mentor that I had for 10 years. He passed away in 2021, but as a business mentor, I couldn't ask for more. He gave his time freely, voluntarily for 10 years. Was only meant to be 2. 10 years of guidance, mentoring. He was there as a soundboard. And again, if I'm honest, when we first met, I didn't think we would get on, because very different personalities. And I walked away from that first meeting thinking, oh gosh, I don't know about this. I thought, you know what, let's give this a go. He's going to challenge me, and that's not a bad thing. And from that came a 10-year, mentoring relationship, which I will always be very grateful for.
Do you know, you mentioned about the fact that when you met for the first time, you weren't too sure, and the fact that it was different. I think that sometimes that's the best type of mentor you can have. Because if you're looking for someone to challenge you, and they look like you, and they sound like you, and they walk like you, and they talk like you, you're going to get the same old thing that you've been getting.
It's true.
But somebody that's different is likely to give you a perspective that is different from what you've been doing, and that in itself is gold. But carry on.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think at the time, in the moment, I'd never had a mentor before. So in my naivety, I thought, oh gosh, he's asking me all these questions and I'm not prepared with the answers and it's really hard. And, his way of kind of asking these questions was quite forthright and firm.
Yeah.
And I just wasn't prepared for it. I genuinely wasn't. But as I said, I was so grateful that I had the, I suppose, open-mindedness to walk away from the meeting and say, okay, not sure, but let's give this a go. Because, like you say, not everything's going to come in a nice, pretty box and nicely wrapped bow with nice words, and they're there, and this is going to be okay. Because he was always on my side. He was always my biggest cheerleader and champion to run my own business and be a bit entrepreneur. But equally, that came with challenges. And as we got to know each other, he used to say to me, make the mistakes in front of me, because that will prepare you for when you're out there in the world. Get stuff wrong as we sit here and talk as the two of us. But when you go out there into the world, you'll then be ready and prepared. He used to phone up and do mystery shopping for me and call competitors. Honestly, I mean,
I need one of those. I need one of those.
He really was. And like you say, relationships being really key. And now I feel like where I've got to in my career and industry, yes, it's hard work. Yes, it's determination, but it's also because of good souls like that. So, in a given year, I try and spend maybe a handful of days a year volunteering and helping others to pay it forward because of what I benefited from. And I think that's really important as well, the relationships that you build from that. And as I said, there was no financial gain for him. He just wanted to see me succeed. And that is such a powerful relationship to have. And I'll be grateful for it for a long time.
But isn't there a saying, and I think I nabbed this from another Shiro, who says that it is up to us, or those that go up the ladder, to send the elevator down so other people can come up. It's important, and I think we all owe it to ourselves and people coming behind us to actually, her name is Sherry Ann Dixon, just remembered her name. She says send the elevator down. I always remember that always goes at the back of my mind. Where am I giving my time, my free time? What am I doing to help others come up the ladder, to make sure that it is not so lonely at the top? Because it does get lonely. So I'm glad there are and there were humans like him to help you to send the elevator down for you. And in terms of sort of tools for visibility and stuff like that, can you give us some ideas on how we craft those tools in order to make us more visible? Because you know what? You can have the most wonderful product or service, but if you're not showcasing it, you will be the best hidden secret in town. So what tools do we need to make us visible?
And I think that's right, Lily. A lot of the time we do such great work. We're just sometimes, I don't know if we're too humble or too shy about putting it out there. Whatever the reason is, no one's going to know if you don't tell them, right?
Yeah.
I think before I list some tools, there's a few things I would suggest people consider first, because there's lots out there. There's lots that you can use for free or paid in terms of promoting yourself and being visible. But in my opinion, there's a few questions you should be asking yourself first. One, what do you want to say? Because if you're not sure what you're saying and what you're selling, what's the service or product or key message that you want to talk about, it's going to get very confusing. So just be really clear on what you want to say is the first thing. Secondly, is who are you saying it to? Who are you talking to? I know that I work. Yes. Who's your audience? Is it, students? Is it business owners and entrepreneurs? Is it, I don't know, 55-year-old women, for example? Find out who you're talking to, because that will really help you to adjust your tone and how you're communicating the message as well. So you've got the firstly, what are you saying? What is that message? Secondly, it's who you're saying it to. Then you get into the tools of you know, how you're going to get the message out there. And as I said, it can be free or it can be paid. So for example, if you were going to do paid advertising, you might want to look at doing something that's digital or social. People are always amazed at how cheap it can be. You don't have to spend hundreds or even thousands on paid advertising on platforms like Facebook or Google. I build adverts, digital adverts all the time for campaigns, and it can be as much as £5 or £10 a day for a week, if that's what you want to spend. But again, when you do create these adverts, it will ask you what you want to say and who you're saying it to, which is why it's so important to plan that from the beginning. So yeah, you have paid advertising, you've got email newsletters, for example. If you've built up quite a community, that's a really good way of staying in touch with people, to tell them who you are and what you do. The list goes on. Because I'm a radio broadcaster at heart, you know, podcasts. Wow. I first trained and made podcasts in the mid-noughties. And during lockdown and COVID, they really saw a big resurgence, because it was a good way of communicating and engaging with a topic. So it seems like the world and their wife has a podcast at the moment. I'm surprised my mum hasn't got one. Everyone's launching a podcast. Because the medium is so easy to engage with. It's comfortable. You can listen to it on demand. It's like you're having a conversation with a friend and you learn things. But maybe as a tool, you might want to launch a podcast where you have a conversation, you explore a topic, you share your expertise.
This in itself is a sort of platform for a podcast, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. And again, you can launch a podcast really cheaply. You can get some equipment. If you don't want to invest too much, that's fine. In terms of a microphone and things, you record it, edit. There's certain editing software out there that's really cheap or free. You then use a podcast hosting site like Podbean, where you can publish it for free or pay like $10 a month, and it publishes it out to like Spotify and iTunes and things like that. So yeah, there's no shortage of platforms and tools.
Digitally, absolutely.
There's no shortage. I think for me, we live in a world where there's so much. Don't be tempted to do it all. You can't be all things to everyone. You can't put everything out there. You've got to sleep and eat in between, you know. My advice is to just think about what you want to say, who you're saying it to, and then pick a handful of platforms that are really going to help you to engage with that audience and get your message out there. And as I said, that's podcasts, that's email newsletters, it's social media, paid digital advertising. I build and make a lot of campaigns, but I don't always throw everything at it, because you've got to be very selective with the platforms and channels you use to get the results that you want.
Right. So I'm trying to type this here so I can put it on the screen, but my typing is not as good because I haven't got my specs on. So it's like podcast, newsletter, choose platforms, and don't try and do it all. Try and do it. Don't try and do everything.
I think with any communication platform that you use, you really want to measure the success of it. You want to be able to understand, get some even very basic metrics. If you've got any likes on social media, when you send out an email newsletter, for example, you'll be able to then look at how many people clicked on it or read the click-through rate and things like that. So it just helps you to be reassured that people are engaging with it and using it to good effect. Because otherwise, if it's not working, change. If you've given it a good go, for example, you've sent out, 6 months worth of email newsletters and no one's opening and reading them, well, that tells you to change. Either change and do a different style of newsletter or content, or even change to another tool.
Yes, so to test the tools out to make sure that it's working, and sometimes we don't get to know the tools that well, because it's the new shiny object that's out there. Because somebody else has spent hours and hours learning it, And then all of a sudden we think that we can also use those platforms and be as successful. And it doesn't always work like that. So yes, I hear you. And final word on that?
I think, like, for example, what you just said about shiny new things coming out, Threads, when Facebook and Meta released Threads.
Yeah, I know that one.
Yeah, as a kind of competitor to Twitter and X, because Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk like to bicker between the two of them as owners of these platforms.
Two rich men.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, don't get me wrong, I am on Threads because I'm curious. I want to see what is it doing and how is it performing. But it's like, for example, a lot of people will say to me, oh, I'm not on TikTok, but I need to be on there. And I'll say, hang on, stop, why? Why do you need to be on there? And I'll say, okay, tell me what you're going to film. And they'll go, oh. And I say, right, TikTok is such a visual platform. If you have nothing to film or nothing to visually share, what are you going to do on there? So that's why I say, don't be tempted to think you've got to do it all. And everyone's on TikTok, I should do it too. Yeah, but if you're not going to do it well, or if you're not going to do it consistently, then maybe it's not for you right now. Not to say you can't do it in future.
Exactly.
But yeah, give yourself a chance to understand it and know if it is right for you and what you need to do.
And doesn't that go back to what you said at the beginning in terms of who you want to, the planning of it, what you want to say and who to. So if your audience is that 55-year-old woman, is she going to be on TikTok?
Probably not. Maybe, but not a big audience. No.
Not exactly. So it's about thinking. And I remember Threads, I posted on it a couple of times. And Instagram is not a big place for me anymore anyway. So my energy is more on LinkedIn. That's where my tribe is. And for me, it works well for me. So I'm sort of staying right here. I ain't going nowhere. And guess what? I think it's one of the biggest platforms. Potentially one, and I think LinkedIn should give me some money, because it's got 1 billion people users, and you and I could potentially be in front of 1 billion people. How cool is that?
I know.
Yeah. So that's amazing. That's amazing.
I've got a friend of mine who hasn't been on LinkedIn in years. She hasn't updated her profile or anything. And because I use it so much, she's asked me to help her, which I'm happy to do. But I think we're due to catch up later this week to kind of go through her profile together. And I think she's going to get quite a shock, because last time she went on it was a long time ago, and it's evolved and changed since then.
Absolutely.
And I'm like you, I love LinkedIn. It's a really good space to connect and learn and share. And I feel that, yes, it's a tool to be used wisely, and not to use it is a real shame. So yeah.
Thank you for that. Thank you for your wisdom. Now before you go, can you give us just 3 short tips on how to communicate with clarity as business leaders?
I think, and it's quite interesting when I have this conversation, because people think I'm going to come out with some kind of revelationary, brand new thing that reinvents the wheel.
Shiny new thing.
Exactly, shiny new thing, which, hey, I'm happy to. But I think we live in a world where we expect everything to be complicated, but sometimes keeping it simple. So one of the first things I would suggest is sit and plan your communications. And I take my own advice with this as well and do the same thing, because towards the end of last year, I had my website redeveloped, and it was a real good opportunity for me to sit and look at what I wanted to include on there, what I wanted to communicate, what I wanted to say. So the first thing I would advise anyone to do is just to plan your communications. Take the time out, whether you're a careerpreneur or you're an entrepreneur, wherever you're at in your career, your business journey, just take even 2 or 3 times a year time to plan what you want to say to give you that clarity and focus.
Okay. Tip number 2.
Tip number 2, be true to yourself, I feel.
Okay.
Because you are your biggest asset. As you say, people buy from people. It's very true. Anyone who knows me knows that when we work together, of course, I take it very seriously, but I like to have a laugh as well. There's always tea and cake involved. There's always pink involved, because that's me.
Yeah,
That's me.
I have worked with you and you were such fun.
Yeah, thank you. I'm probably wearing pink at the same time, or purple. That's my other go-to colour. But yeah, be true to yourself and those strengths that you have, because that is something that is going to come through. When I work with individuals and they say, oh, I want to be more visible, they want to kind of hide behind the business and hide behind what they do. And so I have to remind people, no, you have to step out a bit and be more visible and be willing to share. You don't have to share everything, but just be prepared to be true to yourself, because that is your superpower. So yeah, as I said, firstly, plan your communications. Secondly, be true to yourself. And the third thing I would say is always be curious. This is advice I was given when I was a journalist at the BBC, and it was a news editor I had at the time who was leaving and going to another job. And one of the last interactions I had with her before she left the newsroom I was working in is she hugged me and she said, always stay curious. And at the time, I was a bit like, okay, stay curious. But she's right. Always question, always ask, always have an open mindset to evaluate or perceive something a little different. Or, as I said before, if something isn't working with your communications and marketing, have the opportunity to go, okay, but why isn't that? And be curious to dissect it. Don't overthink, don't overanalyze, but just ask a few questions, be honest, because I think staying curious will help you to not get stuck in a rut. It will help you to always look at things with a new fresh pair of eyes. And also it just helps you to keep that energy. Especially if what you do, you've been doing it for a very long time. You may feel like you've seen and heard it all, but curiosity allows you to question and to really engage with something differently.
So plan your comms, be true to yourself, and always be curious. I'm going to take that away from today. And Louise, you've spoken a lot, but what are the sort of clients that you work with?
I think the clients I work with, funnily enough, Lily, it tends to be mainly women. And it's not like I say I only work with women. I'll work with anyone. Not animals, but they always say never work with animals. But I'll work with anyone. But yeah, it tends to be mainly women. Mainly those who are running medium-sized businesses and teams. Yeah. So they may be in the service industry. They may provide a particular set of consulting services like accountancy, career consultants, that type of thing. So yeah, it tends to be entrepreneurs, your business owners that I do work with, because they're the ones who have been in business for a couple of years, if not longer, but they've got to a bit of a crossroads where they're feeling a bit stuck, or they want to invest some time and energy into getting things right with their communications and marketing. Probably want to be a bit more visible as well, because part of my business is I coach people on doing media interviews as a former journalist. That's part of that. That's how my business started, really. So yeah, it tends to be those types of clients and people that I work with.
Oh, career professionals. You should have come to Lisbon with us, because it was packed full of career professionals and it was amazing. Maybe next year. I think next year it's in the States somewhere. I can't remember. But,
sounds like a road trip, Lily. We're off with our suitcases.
Yeah, we're off on a road trip. You come along and you can speak to the career professionals, and I think they'll love you. Gary, who joined us from Germany, was there as well. So I've got the posse here. So that's amazing. And we've got some comments from Zainab. Zainab says, I love the tips, especially the last two. Ikwa says, great advice. That's amazing. And let's look at, so where can we find you, Louise? So we're just about to wrap up. Where can we find you? Best couple of ways we can find you to engage with your services.
Oh, bless you. Well, yeah, I mean, engage with my services. I'm always blogging and sharing insights and tips as well on marketing communications. So even if we don't end up working together in a official pay capacity, there's always lots of free information that I like to hand out. I call it light bulb moments. That kind of, oh
Mm.
yeah, great idea. So yes, you can go to my website, which is soundbitemedia.co.uk. And there you'll see a picture of me and all the ways that we can work together, or read the blog articles. So that's the website, soundbitemedia.co.uk. And from there, you'll be able to follow me on social media and sign up to my newsletter, which is fabulous. And also you'll see I'm running a competition as well, Lily, to give away entrepreneurs.
Yes, absolutely. I was coming to that. So guys, you know, I normally when my clients come, they always bring something. They always come with gifts, which is, you know, it's just common good etiquette, right? They come bearing gifts, and Miss Lou has a gift for us. What is it, and how can we grab one? Because I think I might want it after everything you said.
So I've decided to run a competition, and it actually is running for about another 3 weeks. But
Mm.
definitely enter when you have a moment as soon as possible, so you don't miss the deadline. But it's an entrepreneur's pack, and I know that when you're running your own business, it feels like a very lonely space at times, because you're doing everything by yourself. Yes, you might have a team, but also there's a lot going on, and
Mm.
I wanted to give an opportunity to invest in one lucky winner. So the lucky winner will win this entrepreneurs pack that includes gift vouchers to treat themselves to a new book, new stationery, treat themselves to coffee and cake at Costa.
Oh.
Also, they get my PR and marketing toolkits. I've written 14 different ones that are interactive, downloadable toolkits for you to learn about writing press releases or networking, how to build your community, how to launch a podcast. My 20 odd years experience is distilled into these 14 toolkits. So that's part of the entrepreneurs pack. And also the lucky winner wins time with me as well. An hour Q&A. So
That must be worth a fortune. I definitely want one. I'm going to enter. Am I allowed?
you can
Probably
enter
not.
one.
Probably not.
Why not?
If I win, we'll say that there's some bias there,
I know.
and there's some irregularity. So
I know.
I'll definitely pass them to some people. The next few people that I meet, for them to enter, because I think it would be great. It must you know, be cost a fortune.
Yeah, well, the actual prize is worth £185 because I think when I do something, I like to do it properly, Lily. So the entrepreneurs pack, it's worth £185. If you go to my website, on the front page, there's a link that tells you how to enter, so you get a chance to basically subscribe to my newsletter, like my Facebook page, and also do a survey. And once you've done all three, you're into the prize draw to win that entrepreneurs pack. And a person will be chosen at random in about 3 weeks.
In 3 weeks, okay. And I'll do is I'll drop down the Facebook link, as well as the LinkedIn link. At the moment, I can only post on the YouTube link. So guys, when you get it, click on it or send it to a friend that you think needs it. And there's nothing wrong with saying to a friend, mate, come on, you need this. There's not this, like, sharing is caring, right? So thank you so much, Miss Lou, for sharing your expertise about communicating with clarity. I've taken so much from it, in that there's some networking tips that we all need. And there's some refresher about not handing your business card to random strangers and thinking that is the done thing. So there's just so much value in everything that you've said. So thank you very much. And for everybody else that's joined us, we've got a new person here, Laura. Thank you for joining us, Laura. And it sounds amazing, Lou. Somebody said, so they're coming from LinkedIn. I'll post the link in LinkedIn as soon as we come off air. I sound like a proper journalist. How am I doing, by the way?
You're doing very well, very well. And I like that you haven't quizzed me. You haven't quizzed me, so I like that. Get it? Not like some journalists who quiz people.
No, Tea with Lily is a safe place. We're here to have tea with our friends and to have conversations that we normally don't hear anywhere else, but it's good conversation where other people can learn from. So I'm not your typical journalist. I haven't gone to journal school, thank God, and so I don't have that skill. But I think there's some people who don't even have to go to journal school. They're just born like that. So no, I don't quiz. I do not quiz my guests. Thanks everyone for joining Tea with Lily. And of course, I'm always here with all your, to answer or bring people to answer all your burning questions. My name again is Lily Naadu Mensah. I'm the Quirky Events host. And I would love for you to join me next time on the Magic Sofa. And until next time, look after yourself and may everything that you wish for be the least that you receive. Thank you, Louise, and goodbye.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for having me, Lily.
You're welcome. I love this.